Hi folks, and welcome to Truck King. Well, Dad, today's a big day because we have this, the all-new, fully redesigned 2024 Toyota Tacoma. And of course, we're gonna go over every detail on this truck, go for a drive, and tell the folks all about it. What do you think, Dad? You excited?
Well, I think that everybody else went to California to drive this, and for some reason, you told them we should do it here in Ontario.
And then it started snowing. But you know what? Snow, white truck, I think it looks good. So
Well, this is as real world as it gets, folks.
exactly. Let's dive into it right now. There will be two choices of power plant for the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. One of them is a hybrid, but that's actually not launching until the spring of 2024, so we have a little while to wait for that. The other one is what we have right here. That is a turbocharged 2.4 liter engine. It's making 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque.
Yes, Steve. And getting the power to the ground is a new 8-speed transmission up from 6 gears. And for those of you who love Toyota's standards, don't worry, you can still get a manual transmission in select trims with this new model.
Now let's talk about this truck that we have here today. This is the Tacoma TRD Off-Road double cab with the 6-foot bed. So this is basically the longest version of the new Tacoma you can get. Now the overall length for this new generation has barely changed. What has changed though is the wheelbase. This truck has a 145-inch wheelbase, which is longer than before. And actually the new gen Tacoma turns slightly worse than the last gen because the wheelbase is longer. Now I also said this is a TRD Off-Road, which means you're getting unique suspension, a set of Bilstein shock absorbers with remote reservoirs, and those reservoirs are new for 2024. Of course, unique styling. The truck looks a bit different because it's a TRD Off-Road, and I think the most important upgrade, wheels and tires. So that's a set of 17-inch TRD wheels with a set of BF Goodrich Trail Terrain TA tires. Now, as we roll back again, you see this long wheelbase, and this is a 6-foot bed back here. Now, on the double cab model, you can get a 6-foot bed or a 5-foot bed, and then if you go for the shorter extra cab, you can only get this longer 6-foot bed. Now, other features I have to mention here on the TRD Off-Road are a rear locking differential and an available disconnecting front sway bar.
So I'm sitting in the front of this new Tacoma, and there's a reason I'm going to make a point out of this, is because personally I have been complaining about the driving position in Tacomas for at least 20 years. So this time around, because of the new platform, they were able to fix that issue. The previous gens all had this weird sitting on the floor feeling where your legs were straight out in front of you. I know a lot of guys are going to write me and say, no, I loved it. Well, good on you. I didn't. And I think there's a lot of more people in my camp. So finally, I've got a Tacoma that I've got a bend at the knee, and it feels comfortable, and I think I'm going to be able to do a lot more miles in this truck. Now, that's speaking about the front of the cab. However, there are poor slobs who have to get into the back of the cab. So right now, let's just see whether or not Steve fits back there.
I guess in this case, I'm that poor slob. So first, let's look at how the back seat actually operates. So the bottoms actually come up, which is nice. So you get some storage underneath both of these seats. And then the backs actually come down as well. So I like that you have that option. If you didn't have the headrest, it would go flat. You also have top tethers here for child seats right here in the back. I know there's one here and one on that side. So I like the flexibility of the back seat going both directions. And now let me climb in.
Okay, try not to make sounds.
So this is 33.7 inches of second row legroom. It's 1.1 inches bigger than last gen. And it's just enough for me. I mean, I have just enough knee room. Of course, this seat could go forward, but this is a comfortable position for someone up there. Just enough. My knees aren't too tall, which is nice. And then same thing, I have just enough headroom. I stand at 6'2", so obviously I'm a tall example. But I will say, it is a little bit better than before. For all of you who are hoping for a much bigger backseat in the Tacoma, no, it's not much bigger, but it is a hair better. And even for a larger than full-size adult, I could sit back here and actually be decently comfortable. So, and in this category of truck, that's all they can really do, because the other option would have been make it bigger, and Toyota didn't want to do that. So in the back seat space, yeah, not bad.
However, for all those parents out there, you can still get back here and hit them.
Cut it out, quit it, don't touch me. And now, folks, here we are in the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. So I think I already said this, but the hybrid engine, we don't have that yet. That's coming next year. So for now, we just have this new base 2.4 turbo. And I always say base because this just doesn't feel like a base engine anymore, Dad, because it makes so much power. In fact, it makes more power than the old V6 made. And why don't you put your foot into it and let's feel the power. Nice.
Well, that's your turbo. Runs up to just over 6,000 RPM. Certainly you can feel it pulling hard from about 4,500 up.
Pulled strong, and again, I'll say it right out off the top, I think that felt better than the old V6. That old 3.5 V6 just had a weird power band, never felt that strong.
Well, the weirdest thing with the old 3.5 was that when it was brought in, there was a lot of complaints about how thirsty the previous 4-liter was.
Correct.
So at that time, their focus was to try to stretch that power band out and give people a break as far as fuel economy was concerned.
Right, and one of the big deals with that engine was that it could switch between auto and Atkinson cycle.
Right.
And I think that had something to do with that feeling as well. So just in an overall power feeling, yeah, the new truck definitely feels more powerful and better than the old one, I'd say.
Well, and again, you know, so after 7 years of Atkinson power, people said, yeah, you know what, I'll pay a few more bucks, but I want something that pulls.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I think that's exactly, Toyota recognized it, and now we have this. The other part of that equation too, of course, is the new 8-speed automatic, which the shifts were quite smooth. And now that it's an 8-speed, the gears are a little bit shorter, and they just have a tendency to not be as abrupt as with the old transmission. So that's adding to the smoothness as well. And then on the topic of smoothness, we have to also mention the suspension. No more leaf springs in the rear end. You can still get leafs on a Tacoma, but just the base SR model. Once you move on from SR, you're getting the new coil spring rear suspension. So yeah, what do you think about the way it's riding down the road as well?
Well, the old Leafs, I mean, they were great if you loaded them.
Sure.
Okay. However, Leafs, and this is universal, when the thing is empty, they have a tendency to want to kick off the top of the bump. So as you're compressing it and as it's coming off the other side, it kicks the back end of the truck, and that's why you constantly had that feeling.
Yeah, like chatter.
You know? Yeah, exactly. Well, then if you got onto some sort of rutted out road, well, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Sure.
So I don't miss them. Leafs are just good. Like I said, if you were loaded all the time, I'll take Leafs any day over coils.
Sure.
However, nobody's loaded all the time. So yeah, it's a good trade-off.
Yep, and that's it. So in everyday drivability, I think the truck is better now too, a little bit more comfortable, and yeah, a little bit smoother. And then of course the other thing lending to the smoothness is wheelbase. We have a longer wheelbase now, and that just always adds up to a smoother ride. Also should mean a better towing experience as well. Wheelbase always helps with that too. So yeah, overall, just in the sort of everyday driving department, I think it's better in every way. Not to mention the seating position, which you already mentioned, but I got to bring it up again just to get my 2 cents in. It's so much better now. It feels like a proper seating position. Yeah, it feels like we don't need to talk about it anymore because it's just fine now.
So stop talking about it.
Fair enough. Overall drivability, new Tacoma, it's all better.
Yeah, it all feels good, and I mean, you know that you're driving a new platform. And I think you said this earlier off camera, what you said, feels like driving a Tundra. Well, you're driving the same platform.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just where the tires are jammed into it that's different, you know. And interestingly enough, it's not a bigger truck, but it feels bigger. It just mostly the way that it's planted, and once more, I put that back to this this new platform.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Now, it is a hair wider than the old truck, and you do feel the width. But yeah, now the Tacoma rides on TNGAF. Actually, every single Toyota body-on-frame vehicle will now ride on that same platform. And yeah, as that said, I got in, and my first impression was it's a baby Tundra. And that's a good thing, because it just drives so nice on the road. And before, the old Tacoma felt nothing like a Tundra, especially when it was the old V8 Tundra. Those trucks had very different personalities, and that's not really the case anymore. They feel kind of like same truck, different size.
Yeah. And I just want to throw one more thing in about the wheelbase, because I noticed it right off, and then I went and checked the numbers. So the approach angle on this truck has improved because those wheels were actually pulled towards the front of the truck. I'm happy that the approach is better. It'll climb better out of ditches. You should know something about that.
Yeah, absolutely, and we might as well plug it here. In this video, we're not going off-road, but make sure you stay tuned, because very soon, tomorrow, we are going to take it off-road and shoot a whole video on that as well.
Yeah, we're making a whole day out of that thing, and right now we're just waiting to see how much snow we're going to get overnight, because that's what they say. But, well, whatever, we're going no matter what.
Yeah. We have to touch on the new interior now. It is fully revised. Now here in our truck, we have the TRD Off-Road, but just the basic package. So this is built off the SR5. So we're not getting things like the larger infotainment screen. There's a head-up display available on the limited model. There are more luxurious interiors. There's leather seats, etc., etc. So you can kind of treat this as one of the more basic interiors. And with that in mind, I just want to say I like it. I like the simplicity of it. I like the big knobs down here, still knobs and buttons, which is good. And then one other interesting thing about the screen, Dad, is we get the smaller screen in this truck, but it's the same infotainment system. Toyota has now moved to this new infotainment system. It's moving across all of their products. So unlike kind of back in the day where when you got the smaller radio, you also got a less capable version of the radio and the infotainment, that's not the case. The only difference now is the size of the screen. So in that way, I'm okay with the smaller screen. You know what I mean? It doesn't really bug me if I didn't pay for it, because I know I'm getting all the same actual technological features.
Yeah, well, frankly, the smaller screen seems appropriate for the amount of dash space that it's taking up. It doesn't seem too small. And as far as, you know, what you're saying about the same features, well, let's face it, more and more companies are going outside for their software. So they're literally buying from an outside company.
Sure.
You know, be that Google or be it Apple or whoever the heck it is, because they figured out that those guys do it better than they do.
Yeah, no, so it's definitely a different kind of take on it. And then outside of that, I mean, just, yeah, I like the styling. I like the blue we have here in our TRD Off-Road. This, of course, will be different colors and different materials and different trucks. Functionality-wise, I get a great little shelf up here above my glove box, a nice grab handle down here, plus a weird little grab handle up here on the A-pillar, and a handle up here above my head, so lots of handles. Yeah, overall, actually, another thing I'll mention, I love the space down here for your phone. It just allows it to rest at a really nice angle, and you can still kind of see it, and you get your USB-C ports. It's all here, man. It feels like a modern interior, and again, just because it's a little more spacey than the last one, I just feel like it's more comfortable. Everything's here, plus I'm more comfortable. I got no complaints.
I like the way they've put it together.
Yeah.
You know, Toyota truly is practical, and that's what this interior is, and that appeals to me. But this electric blue color that they've stuck in here, I mean, actually, I like it because it's just so striking.
It's quite something, yeah.
So it doesn't need to be any more than that, but that one sort of splash that says, you know, hey, we surprised you.
Sure.
I like that.
Sure. Last thing I'll mention, the fully digital info cluster up there in front of the driver. I like Toyota's take on this as well. Basically, they give you 3 different screens, and then you can customize all 3 of them. So then you go through screen 1, screen 2, and screen 3. You can pick what you want to see, so you know what's where. Yeah, customizability is very important, and it's there as well, plus all the information they offer is nice. All right, Dad, I think we've landed on one of the final points of the review, which...
Oh, the most important point.
Always the most important point. the price. So the Tacoma on average has gone up by about $3,000. Now, of course, that depends on which trim you're looking at and which bed you're getting, transmission, all that stuff. But yeah, it's about $3,000 across the board. And rather than me try to remember all the numbers, I'll throw up all of the US pricing numbers right here. And then for all the Canadians out there, I have to mention a couple of things because we have some different packaging options. First of all, the extra cab model, which is just the 2-seat model, the extra cab doesn't even get back seats. The new extra cab will only launch in the United States. Toyota Canada says that it's coming, we just don't know when. So eventually we will get the extra cab here in Canada, but not now. So that's one way that our base model has stepped up. And then because of that, we also don't get the SR model, which is the very basic Tacoma. So we don't get SR, we don't get extra cab. The Canadian Tacoma starts as a double cab SR5, which means that our base price has gone up by about $6,000. So like usual, Canada's getting a little bit screwed.
So
and
shocked.
everything's more expensive here. Plus, we only get 4x4 trucks here in Canada. You can't even buy a 2-wheel drive Tacoma. Oh, and another point, the Canadian Limited will only come with the hybrid engine, which means you cannot buy the Limited in Canada yet. Once the hybrid launches in spring of 24, we'll get the Limited luxury model, but for now, the top trim model is actually the TRD Off-Road Premium. That's the most expensive one you can get in Canada for now. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this video. Now, of course, this is just our initial impressions with the new Tacoma. We're definitely going to get more of these trucks, more trim levels. We got lots more videos to make with this truck. But for now, Dad, I'll tell you my initial impression is when you are number one, when you're the segment leader, it's not always about pushing so far forward and coming out with some crazy new product. It's about making sure you keep your core customers happy, not screwing your truck up, basically. And I don't feel like Toyota screwed up a single thing. This thing seems to be better in every single area where it needed to get better. That's my big takeaway.
Yeah, and you know, for a couple of guys who love to complain, I really haven't had a complaint today.
Yeah.
Which in itself is strange, so yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely good news. So now, of course, we need to hear from you. Why don't you drop into the comment section right now and let us know what you think of this redesigned 2024 Tacoma. Also, let us know what you want to see out of future Tacoma videos, because like I said, we have lots more to shoot with this thing. And then as always, of course, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.